Celtic supporters, what a whirlwind these last days have been around the club, and the energy surrounding Paradise right now feels different, almost electric, as if the whole place has been reset. The night might not have delivered the most polished football we have ever seen, but there was a sense of purpose in everything the team did. A sense that the only thing that mattered was getting those 3 points on the board and pushing the momentum forward. You could sense early on that the legs were a bit heavy after this brutal run of fixtures. The pace lacked that usual snap we love to see, and the sharpness in the final third was clearly missing. But even with the fatigue and the lack of rotation, the determination to grind out a result stood out from the opening whistle. Martin O'Neill, in these past matches, has leaned into a settled 11, and that familiarity was obvious again. The back line looked steady. Ingles and McGregor kept things ticking. Peter played with that spark Celtic fans have been waiting to see again, and Macaron and Yang offered the kind of width that constantly stretches games. Even without flooding the scoreboard early on, Celtic controlled the tempo, pinned Dundee back, and created enough moments to keep the pressure building. Peter especially looked like a player carrying belief again. His vision, his movement, the way he threaded that gorgeous pass into Yang's stride for the opener. It felt like watching a player fully awake after weeks of trying to shake off frustration. That left-footed ball between bodies inside a packed box said everything about his confidence. The match itself had that classic December feel, the kind supporters have seen for decades in this league. A cold night, a slippy pitch, a stubborn opponent determined to crowd the box and slow the pace at every opportunity. And to be fair to Dundee, they weren't passengers. They moved the ball neatly at times, pressed when they saw the chance, and forced a few uncomfortable moments out of Celtic, including that loose touch from Scales that gifted Simon Murray a big chance he really should have buried. There were nervy spells from set pieces too, especially late on, but that Scottish football in winter, it's gritty, chaotic, unpredictable, and that's exactly what makes it compelling. Celtic pushed into the final third repeatedly, but the finishing touch just wasn't there. Too many extra touches, too many attempts to engineer the perfect angle, and Dundee were packing bodies in the box every time the ball went wide. Sometimes on nights like this, you just need to take the scruffy shot and hope for a deflection or a lucky bounce on a frosty surface. That greasy pitch was begging for a miskick or slice to fall kindly for someone in green and white, but the ball refused to break in those moments. That's why the win mattered even more. It wasn't about playing Dundee off the park. It was about showing resilience, composure, and awareness that a single lapse could cost you everything. What stood out even more was the understanding that the team couldn't afford to drift or lose focus. The memory of the earlier slip against Dundee when Celtic weren't playing with belief still lingers. This time, though, even with the imperfections, Celtic stayed alert, kept possession, and did exactly what they needed to do. These are the kinds of nights that win titles, and not the glamorous 4-goal displays, but the tough, cold, midweek battles where you find a way through without ever hitting top gear. One concern, of course, was seeing Marcelo Sarra forced off. The expression on his face said everything. He knew instantly it wasn't a knock he could shake off, and given his previous setbacks, that will sting for him more than anyone. Even Schmeichel had a scare that made supporters gasp for a second, though thankfully he managed to carry on. The squad depth is already stretched thin with the injury load, and moments like these remind you how delicate the balance is during this brutal part of the season, but the post-match atmosphere belonged to Martin O'Neill. The crowd was bigger than you would normally see for a match like this, and you could feel that supporters wanted one last moment to show him what he has meant to them these past weeks. He's never been the type to soak up the spotlight or stroll around the pitch milking applause. He answered the briefest of questions before darting off, dragging Sean Maloney and Mark Fingham along with him, as if to remind everyone that nothing was achieved alone. The players clapped him off with admiration in their eyes, fully aware of the weight he removed from their shoulders at a moment when the club could easily have spiraled. What he has done for Celtic in this short spell goes far beyond picking lineups and delivering team talks. He took a fractured group, low in confidence, drained by results, and lifted them. He closed an 8-point gap that many assumed would swallow the season. He took a squad rattled by off-field turmoil and redirected their focus toward performances that actually matter. He rediscovered the belief, the urgency, the sense of identity that had gone missing. He reminded Celtic what it looks like to fight again. Those narrow late wins, like the McGregor goal against St Mirren, simply don't happen without that shift. To think about where Celtic were when he walked through the door, a manager resigning, a major figure at the club publicly criticizing the direction of the team, 3 straight losses away from home, a fan base uneasy, a cup semi-final looming that many quietly feared, and then to see where Celtic stand now, level at the top, through to a final alive in Europe and playing with conviction again, is remarkable, and the supporters know it. Even the ones too young to remember his first spell have now had a taste of what Martin O'Neill brings: personality, authority, calm, humour, and a brand of leadership modern football often lacks. Watching him spark the final order performance in Europe and then carry that momentum into the league, you could almost imagine what it must have felt like to follow Celtic every week during his golden era. What makes all of this even more surreal is the way he simply walks away again, quietly without fuss, as if these 8 matches were just a small favour. He will head back down south, slip back into his normal life, and probably wake up one morning wondering if it all actually happened. But it did, and in years to come, Celtic supporters will look back and say, remember when Martin O'Neill came back for those 8 games and absolutely transformed our season? It will become one of those stories you tell with a smile, because it captured everything football is supposed to be: unpredictable, emotional, and full of character. Folks, let's crack on, because the story didn't end there, not by a long shot. If the first half already felt like a whirlwind, buckle up, because this next stretch is where the pace picks up like a winger charging down the touchline with the wind at his back. You can almost feel the tension in the air as the club quietly shifts gears behind the scenes, plotting their next moves with the type of precision that would make even the sharpest tacticians nod in appreciation. And honestly, you can sense something brewing, something different, as if everyone involved knows the stakes are rising, not slowly, but like a storm rolling in from the coast, steady at first and then suddenly all-consuming. The anticipation is buzzing through the squad, the fans, and even the board, each piece aligning for what could be a defining chapter ahead. And it's no surprise, really, because the dressing room's energy has evolved in a way you can practically hear if you listen closely. Players chatting more, working harder, pushing one another with that kind of fire you see when a group suddenly realizes they're capable of more than they've been showing. It's like flicking a switch. And you can feel the players responding, feeding off each other's intensity, whether it's conversations at the training ground, quiet coffees among the senior lads, or the academy boys watching with eyes wide open, trying to learn every step. There's a spark, a sense of unity starting to swell again. That's something you just can't buy. No matter how deep your pockets go, you build it, you nurture it, and when it clicks, it feels like destiny. But let's not pretend everything's perfect, because in Scottish football, or any football for that matter, perfection's a myth. What really matters is the reaction, the mentality after disappointment, and that's exactly where the club seems to be hitting another stride. Instead of moaning, the players are putting their heads down, grafting, doubling their efforts. You can see the hunger creeping back, the kind that makes you believe this group's ready to chase something bigger than just bouncing back from a bad match day. They're chasing identity, pride, and maybe even redemption. You sense it in every interview, every training clip, every moment captured by fans lucky enough to spot the lads working away from the cameras. The coaching staff, mind you, is not resting either. They're dissecting, analyzing, planning with the sharpness of a team that realizes every decision right now matters tenfold. Lineups are being reconsidered. Tactical tweaks are sliding into training sessions, and you can tell they're determined to restore that confidence the supporters have been craving. And honestly, fair play to them. They're showing that willingness to adapt rather than cling to old ideas. That's the mark of a modern staff, one that understands football evolves every week, not every season. Off the pitch, the noise continues as whispers about transfers start swirling again, each rumor sounding more intriguing than the last. Names from leagues abroad, young prospects from within the country, and even the possibility of one or two surprise veterans, all part of the dance as the club tries to build something sustainable. And whether these signings happen or not, the fact the conversations are happening at all shows the ambition is alive. Because if there's one thing that sets great clubs apart, it's the refusal to settle, the refusal to stagnate, the refusal to accept a season as good enough. The club, no matter the ups and downs, doesn't do good enough. The supporters don't accept it. The badge doesn't stand for it. The history won't allow it. But speaking of supporters, let's take a wee moment here to recognize what they've been doing. Week in, week out, rain, wind, travel headaches, heartbreaks, moments of joy followed by moments of pure frustration, and yet they show up. They chant, they push the players forward, they criticize because they care. They defend the badge with a passion that outsiders can hardly understand. And that's why the next phase of this journey feels so crucial, because these next few months are as much for the fans as they are for the squad. The connection between pitch and stand is tightening again. And if the performances rise to match the passion in the terraces, then we're in for something special. And let's not ignore the individuals stepping up behind the scenes, not always the big names, but the steady ones. The players who don't always make headlines but keep the heartbeat steady. The ones encouraging teammates, running extra drills, working before and after training. Every squad has them, but this club's group seems to have found an extra gear. You can't help but feel that this quiet leadership is going to play a huge role when the fixtures pile up, when fatigue kicks in, when the pressure becomes heavy enough to make weaker teams crumble. Consistency wins titles, character wins battles, togetherness wins seasons, and this squad, slowly but surely, is finding all three again. As the fixtures approach, you can almost hear pundits sharpening their predictions. Some cautious, some bold, some outrageous as ever, but honestly, what matters most isn't their chatter, it's the mindset brewing inside the club walls. Confidence without arrogance, humility without fear, ambition without chaos. That's the balance the best teams master. And if the players continue buying into the plan, if the staff continues adjusting with clarity, and if the board continues backing them with both patience and ambition, then what's coming could very well surprise those who doubted. Folks, keep your eyes peeled, because this isn't just another chapter. It feels like the build-up to something more meaningful. The players are ready, the staff is ready, the supporters are more than ready. And if everything aligns the way it's beginning to, we might just be heading toward a moment that people look back on years from now and say, that's when everything changed. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Whispers swirled through Glasgow last night as Callum McGregor, long-standing heartbeat of Celtic's midfield, stepped up to a surprise press conference and uttered the words no one expected to hear. The captain, usually calm as a loch at dawn, spoke with a tone that carried more weight than a decade of tackles. He announced he would be leaving Celtic, yet, even as the statement left his lips, a fog of uncertainty settled over the room, the kind that always seems to hang above Parkhead when something big is brewing. Folk close to the club insist there's more to the story than what was said aloud. Some swear blind they saw board members exchanging glances sharper than a winter wind, as though the decision had landed sooner than anyone planned. Others claim McGregor looked almost relieved, as if this moment had been drifting toward him for months, but with no mention of where he might be headed or what sparked the move. The city's footballing chatter has gone into overdrive. Pundits are already tossing out theories like confetti: a high-profile transfer abroad, a shock switch within Scotland, a sabbatical to recharge after carrying the team's midfield for so long. No one seems able to settle on a single explanation. Supporters outside Celtic Park muttered that the announcement felt off, as though the captain was holding something back, leaving threads dangling for the rumour mill to pull at. Inside the dressing room, it said the players were caught as unawares as the fans. A few insiders hinted at subtle tensions behind the scenes, quiet disagreements, shifting priorities. Whether that's truth or just the usual storm of gossip that rises any time a big name speaks out, no one can tell for certain. What is certain is that Glasgow will be buzzing for days. A figure as central as McGregor doesn't step away without sending tremors through the footballing landscape. And until he reveals the next chapter, the city will keep talking, guessing, and waiting, eyes fixed on every whisper drifting out of Lennoxtown. Hello, fan, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.